What's going on, everyone? So today we are back with Sabine, but this is Darksaber Sabine, which is a pretty sweet green Sabine list that I've been messing around with and having a ton of fun lately. Guys, if you want to pick up any of the cards I'm going to talk about in this video, I have a TCG player link in the description down below that you can go ahead and use to pick up any of the cards. But let's talk about Darksaber Sabine and the new set 2 and run through some games today. So obviously, this is Sabine. So for those of you that don't know what Sabine does, she has that action deal 1 damage to a base. She flips over for 4 as a 2/5 and smacks in, does a lot of damage, okay? The key there is that she flips over for 4 resources. And as we've seen with 4 resource flips, heck, even Lando, but more specifically Kylo Ren in set 2, is that when you are able to upgrade them and just get a massive amount of additional power on them, they become a little oppressive. Now with set 1, there wasn't really an exceptional like green or red upgrade that you'd want to be playing. The upgrade that immediately I thought of was like Jedi Lightsaber, but that puts you in Sabine Blue, and you don't really want to be doing that. Kylo Ren is a perfect one in Fallen Lightsaber, and now Sabine has a pretty good one in the Darksaber. Now, in order to maximize the Darksaber, we've kind of made a few modifications to our deck in order to have, ideally, 1 to 2 additional Mandalorians that we can actually give experience tokens to, as that's going to help us out to really push in a ton of damage. So let's talk about some of the cards that we're kind of used to seeing. We have our units here. We're definitely a little bit more low to the ground. We got a couple copies of RR2. We have our A-Wings. We have Sabine. Sabine is a Mandalorian. We have ourselves the Red 3, as most of our cards are heroism cards. We also have, well, K2SO, as per usual. All cards that we're used to seeing in terms of units. In terms of events, we have, the 4 causes. We got ourselves the heroic sacrifice. But that's kind of where the similarities end between set 1 and set 2. This is a deck that actually got a ton of set 2 tools. Because when you start incorporating these set 2 cards, we actually have a lot more 1-drops. We have 3 copies of Clone Deserter. We have 2 copies of Reckless Gunslinger, a copy of Maz Kanata. If we do end up getting that really nice curve, we can go 1-drop, 1-drop into potentially like 2-drop, 1-drop on the next turn. We have Ketsu Onyo and House Cast Soldier, both of which are Mandalorians. And then as our 3-drop comes around, we have Sindari Peacekeeper and Night Owl Skirmisher, also both Mandalorians. In our 4-drop slot, we have a Casca Reeves, which is also Mandalorian, and if she is upgraded, she's going to do some extra damage. Echo, though, is extremely powerful in the 4-drop slot alongside K2SO, as Echo can oftentimes be a 4-resource play that essentially puts 6 power on the board, because you discard, let's say, a spare Red 3, or a spare Sindari Peacekeeper, or a spare Night Owl Skirmisher, or whatever you have in your hand that just gets you power immediately. And then, and this is the key, at the top of our curve, we got 3 copies of Poe Dameron and 3 copies of Wrecker. Those are going to be our ECL targets almost all the time. You don't really want to be ECLing out anything else besides potentially a K2SO. K2SO, Poe Dameron, and Wrecker are the 3 ECL targets that I'm okay with. In some situations, maybe you ECL something out, but generally speaking, you don't. So the idea behind this list is we get down a couple earlier units, we flip over Sabine, and that should seal the deal with a Darksaber, especially if we have like 1 to 2 other Mandalorians, because Sabine at that point is going to be a fat 6/8 that also deals the damage when she attacks. And you probably get another experience token over on something like a Sindari Peacekeeper or a House Cast Soldier. And that just starts to snowball very, very quickly. So very interesting list. Poe Dameron and Wrecker obviously help out a ton here at the top end to kind of close out games. And then all the other units here that we play on the earlier ends of things for Mandalorian reasons are just kind of value units, right? Like a 4/3 for 3 or a 3/5 for 3. Or, a 3/2 for 2. I will say a couple of upgrades that we're also running alongside, kind of other things that we got going on are Heroic Resolve and Inspiring Mentor. I was, back and forth on Inspiring Mentor for a while here, but I figure we go ahead and give it another try because I've modified the list to include a lot more 1-drops, right? So we have a total of 5, 6, 7, 8 different 1-drop plays, which is a lot, right? So there are actually quite a few games where you can go 1-drop into turn 2 Inspiring Mentor plus a 1-drop, and that could be a really powerful curve. Of course, it's very rare, and if you don't have those types of curves, Inspiring Mentor can be bad. So that's a little bit of kind of a fun card that I'm playing in this list that I've had some decent experience with. But it could be a little bit swinging depending on the situation. So we're going to jump into some games, try out these cards, and hopefully we can get some pretty nice games going. So let's not waste any time and dive into our first game. Looks like we're starting ourselves off against a double green Bobo. We have a pretty interesting hand. We have an A-Wing, we have a Ketsu Onyo, and we have a Heroic Resolve, Darksaber. I think this is a keepable hand, and we're definitely going to go ahead and resource that Inspiring Mentor. And honestly, probably the Poe Dameron, even though I don't love it, because we have a turn 1 play in Ketsu Onyo or A-Wing, and then we follow it up with a turn 2 play of whatever we don't play plus Heroic Resolve, and then we go ahead and get down ourselves a Darksaber. Now I'm going to start off with the A-Wing, and the reason being is there's a lot less plays that they can play on turn 1 to actually kill the A-Wing, and it looks like they're just going to claim initiative, which I'm honestly very happy with. We drew ourselves another Poe Dameron, so now we have a question. Okay, do I want to go ahead and play like a Sundari Peacekeeper or, a couple 2-drops? I think I'm actually going to resource the Ketsu Onyo. I'd rather just get down the Sundari Peacekeeper in this spot and be happy with that. So let's go ahead and grab the Sundari Peacekeeper. And this also is a Mandalorian, what's going to help with the Darksaber, so that's going to be pretty sweet. If I went with Ketsu Onyo plus Heroic Resolve, there's a chance that Heroic Resolve looks pretty bad in a specific scenario, and I'd rather just get down the actual nice curve play, and then we're going to pass here and set up for the next turn. So let's go ahead and resource one of these Sabines that we've drawn, and now we have the kind of awesome curve of flipping over Sabine, getting a Darksaber on, and start getting some experience tokens on our Sundari Peacekeeper, which is going to be really, really nice. Looks like they're going to play an Escort Skiff, and they're going to ambush my Sundari Peacekeeper. Okay, in that case, we're just going to go ahead and actually trade with the Escort Skiff, just so that we can, get some more value going, and not have their Sundari Peacekeeper kill my Sundari Peacekeeper for essentially free. That's pretty weak in terms of, what we've got going on. Let's go ahead and ping for 1. Let's flip Sabine. Let's put a Darksaber on Sabine, and let's kill their Sundari Peacekeeper. Sundari Peacekeeper is going to be able to go ahead and really restore a lot. And what this also allows us to do is if they decide to ECL something out here on 5, Sabine's probably going to be able to deal with it, which is quite nice. And because we drew another Mandalorian, we could also go Sabine Wren plus Night Owl Skirmisher and put up an experience token on each of them. Or we could just ECL out our own Poe Dameron and kind of finish out the game that way, which is quite nice. So pretty solid curve so far. And it looks like they are going to go with the Echo-based Defender. Honestly, not scary at all. They're going to claim initiative, which means we're going to go the high value route of playing 2 creatures, 2 units here, and just getting an experience token on both of them. And, well, look at that. We ended up drawing ourselves a Wrecker and a Poe Dameron, so we have a million different options to go with. And Sabine even survived, which is really, really sweet. So even though they played a Sentinel, we were able to kill their Sentinel with Sabine and get a massive amount of value with, well, the other units that we played. So pretty amazing stuff going on with the Darksaber. The Darksaber was really, really critical here. It looks like they're going to ECL out a Clone Deserter. That feels extremely, extremely weak. And we're just going to attack for 5. Remember, we have ECL out Wrecker, which is kind of gross. And I don't really see them being able to do anything. Look at that. They're going to go ahead and play their Boba Fett, which allows me to go ahead and destroy something, hit them with Boba, or hit their Boba, and then, hit them with Wrecker, and that's going to kill them. So honestly, not even a close game. It was extremely, extremely us favored. Their ECLing out Clone Deserter was really, really sad, actually, in terms of like how much value you can get from an ECL. So when I see that, I'm very much excited. And I mean, Sabine Wren with the Darksaber really did flip that game around. There might have been a situation where if we were playing normal Rebels, we could have gotten in with more damage with like Fleet Lieutenants and Wing Leaders, which we are giving up in this version. But the fact that we ended up drawing the Sabine, we were able to go ahead and play out the Sabine, our leader, get that Darksaber going, and then end up getting 2 additional experience tokens while also getting in a lot of damage and keeping our Sabine alive to where they had to use Echo-based Defender. We killed their Sundari Peacekeeper, and we actually got their ECL with Clone Deserter to keep our Sabine around. So really, really sweet first game to start us off. All right, then we find ourselves against a Vader green deck, and this is a pretty aggressive hand, but it is something I like. I like having Echo when we have a lot of low drops. I'm going to go ahead and resource probably one of these 2 drops. I'm thinking that we resource, well, the Ketsu Onyo and probably the Reckless Gunslinger. That could kind of end up being a little bit sad. We'll see. We're gonna go Maz Kanata here first into Clone Deserter, and if they have like a price on your head, that is fine. Looks like they do, so we're gonna go Clone Deserter, and we're gonna go ahead and deal 1 damage to each player, and then we're gonna pass. It looks like we drew a Clone Deserter, which is great, and now we can go ahead and, well, potentially resource the For a Cause, but I actually think we just resource the Echo at this point. And looks like, yeah, they have an open fire. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and attack for 2, restore 1, and then we're gonna play an A-Wing plus a Clone Deserter plus deal 1 damage to each player, and then pass. And look at that, we drew another Echo, and we're just gonna go ahead and resource the R2. We have a lot of units on the battlefield, and of course, Clone Deserter looks pretty nice. Imperial Interceptor for them, great. They're going to go ahead and deal 1 damage to one of our Clone Deserters. We're going to go ahead and attack for 2. And then we're going to go ahead and deal damage, flip, attack, play an Echo, and pass. And now we have kind of a nice little setup. We can play a red 3, but it kind of just dies to their Interceptor. I'd rather just kind of set up with this For a Cause and try to get some major damage going. And we've already dealt 12 damage to their base. Looks like they have an ECL target. And ooh, it's a Kylo Ren here. They're probably going to be able to kill Echo, is my guess. I think that they probably should kill Echo in this spot. If they don't, then they are really in quite a bit of trouble. See, like killing Sabine there, it's 1 less damage that, or 1 more damage that we get to do to them. So I think that was actually a mistake from them, even though Sabine is, you know, a hefty unit. I can also use the action next turn, right? Like, now I can just action with Sabine, and that's going to be a huge deal. Here we have another For a Cause, though. I mean, they're so dead. I don't really think they could have gotten out of this, but yeah, they have Overwhelming Barrage. Sure, you get to potentially wipe our whole board, right? 3, 5. No, they don't even get to wipe the whole board, so the game's over. Even if we didn't have another For a Cause, or we didn't have Sabine action, or we didn't have ECL Wrecker. Like, I mean, this game is so over. We have 3 different ways that our opponent can be killed here. But you can see that early game when they went like price on your head into open fire. It's honestly not that impressive to do something like that. You really want like a Death Star Stormtrooper on turn 1. And the Maz Kanata plus the multiple 1-drops actually did really good work there. You saw there we went Maz Kanata Clone Deserter, followed up with an A-Wing Clone Deserter. And we even have Reckless Gunslinger from our Smuggle pile for a little bit later on. And that's what I love about this deck is all the 1-drops actually do major work, because there's a lot of decks that are trying to put bounties on a single unit and claim them and kind of ramp into the later stages. And these multiple units just kind of rush the board and really get in early. And you can see, I mean, these game times are extremely short and they're not even close. Sabine Green, guys, pretty good. All right, so we got ourselves an interesting matchup here against another Sabine Green. And do I care about this hand? Well, unfortunately for us, we are on the draw, or we're playing second. So if I go A-Wing after they play an A-Wing, it's really bad. And Housecast Soldier is one of our worst true drop plays. So I'm actually going to mulligan this and try to find something a little bit better. Ketsu Onyo is a lot more exciting. So I'm going to go ahead and keep that. And I'm actually going to go to resource Housecast Soldier and maybe a For a Cause. This matchup actually doesn't really care about For a Cause nearly as much. And they actually went with a ping, which is pretty exciting because I'm able to play the A-Wing without any sort of, you know, worry that I'm going to lose the A-Wing now, most likely. Of course, they can ECL like a Consortium Star Viper. Go ahead and get rid of the extra Podamerons here, which is, you know, pretty nice for us. We're going to go another A-Wing, and they're going to maybe deal 1 damage to each player, but I think that's probably a mistake from them if they go ahead and do that. And now we're going to get in for 4 damage and ping. And look at that. We are by far ahead at this point. Now we can go ahead and get down probably a Sindari Peacekeeper or a Ketsu Onyo. I think Sindari Peacekeeper is just a little bit better. And now if they ECL like a Consortium Star Viper, I mean, heck, we are massively in the lead. So let's go ahead and just attack for 3 here. Let's go ahead and attack their base for 4. Let's go ahead and ping each base for 1. Daring raid my base. Let's go ahead and flip Sabine. Let's go ahead and attack their base for 3. And I'm actually going to go ahead and ECL out a Sindari Peacekeeper, killing their Fleet Lieutenant. So I can restore 2, plus get another really nice threat out there. Yes, I could ECL out a Poe Dameron to kill one of their big threats. But now here's where Heroic Resolve comes in. We could potentially get 3 extra power, so this can attack for essentially 6 here into their base, and we have a nice, you know, amount of air pressure or space pressure, and we have units on the ground, so it's going to be really hard for our opponent to come back from this. And this really just stems from the fact that they had no turn 1 play. The fact they have no turn 1 play is disgustingly bad for in this type of matchup here. And looks like they're going to heroic or rebel assault, but we're going to attack with the Sundari Peacekeeper and get that restore going. And now, well, even if they have 4 cause, they still don't win, right? And that's exactly kind of the idea behind ECLing out the Sundari Peacekeeper, is we get to kill their units and we get to restore 2. If I had not ECL'd that Sundari Peacekeeper out, then they would have potentially been able to kill if they hit a little bit better with 4 cause. You can see here, what do they hit? They hit Spec Force Soldier, Wing Leader, Timely Intervention, and Rebel Assault. So they're much more of a traditional Sabine deck, right? They're playing Fleet Lieutenants and Rebel Assaults and stuff. I don't like this deck anymore, especially since you're playing things like Daring Raid and Timely Interventions, which, yes, they're good cards, but they really aren't that good in this archetype anymore. Mainly because, well, you have so many less heroism cards, and you have so many powerful, you know, really strong cards like Wrecker and Podameron, which aren't rebels. And it looks like our opponent, I don't know, kind of rage quit and disconnected, but I guess that's it. I guess that is it. So good game to our opponent. Unfortunately, they left the game without conceding, and we're going to go ahead and go to the next game. All right, and I forgot I was trolling you all by being on the bottom left. I really need to remember that. But we're going to go ahead and keep this hand, and we're going to keep what we got going on. I like this hand. It is Sabine red into red 3. It's a very classic hand, something that we're all kind of used to. Let's go ahead and resource probably an Echo and probably an R2. So we have kind of our turn 1 and turn 2 plays figured out. We're going to go Sabine red into the red 3. And they are playing Bosk blue, which means that they could have things like top target, or things that, you know, could really do some nasty work against us. So we have to be careful without, you know, or be careful of them, you know, healing too much potentially. Let's go ahead and claim initiative here. And they have gone ahead and played a Viper Probe Droid plus Public Enemy. So here, even though I don't like it, I am going to go ahead and kill their Viper Probe Droid. Because if we don't, here's what happens. We hit them for 3, but then they get a double shield or a shielded Probe Droid. Well, actually, that's not necessarily true. They potentially can hit it with Probe Droid and then get another unit with a shield, which is very, very scary for sure. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit their Viper Probe Droid and deal 1 damage to their base. And now they can't claim a bounty to give themselves a shield, which is going to be very, very nice. Unfortunately, they played a space unit, and, well, that means our red 3 is going to die, but that is okay. Here, we can get rid of this Inspiring Mentor. Definitely not really going to give us any value here, and they're going to trade. We're going to play a K2SO, and then we're going to probably deal 1 damage. Yeah, I think it's worth dealing 1 damage here. Top target, and that's what I was worried about, right? All the healing coming out from Bosk. It's going to be potentially really, really hard to deal with. Of course, here, what we can do is potentially ECL out a Podameron to defeat a shield on the client and deal 2 damage to a base, which could potentially be pretty good. We'll see. Here's a red 3 and a Sundari Peacekeeper. Let's go ahead and get rid of that Sundari Peacekeeper. And we're just going to start off by hitting for 4. If they have a defeat card, right, they're going to be able to put a bounty on this thing and heal for a total of 10 damage, which is kind of absurd. That just kind of shows you how powerful Bosk Blue can be if you're trying to play that more controlling style of deck. But the problem with this is that you oftentimes are playing like a mix of these like units and stuff and doing all this nonsense. Let's go ahead and make them discard here, actually, instead of dealing 3 damage, so we can get the last card out of their hand. Hopefully it's a good one. It's going to be a Force Choke. So it ended up working out pretty nicely for us. Let's go ahead and deal 1 damage to each base. And let's go ahead and just ECL out a Podameron. And I will resolve the ambush attack. I'm going to go ahead and hit Bosk, and I'm going to discard a red 3 to defeat an upgrade on the client. And that's going to kill Bosk. And if they want to hit the Podameron and trade, then we are actually in a really nice position. They're out of cards, which means they have to top deck something. We have Sabine on the battlefield, and we are in a pretty good position now. We could even go, you know, K2 plus Sabine. which I think is going to be pretty nice. We can also go red 3 plus Sabine, but I think K2 plus Sabine's a little bit more exciting. They're going to claim initiative. Okay, so we're going to go attack for 4, K2, Sabine, pass. And look at that. That is a sweet, sweet hand. And look at that. We ended up drawing into Darksaber plus Clone Deserter, which is probably something I'm just going to drop here now. I'm going to start off with Sabine Wren into their Pike Sentinel. It's just going to kill their Pike Sentinel. They're going to claim initiative. We're going to go Darksaber on Sabine. We're going to go attack, attack. And we don't need to play out the Clone Deserter in case they have something here, like a Super Laser Blast. If they happen to be playing that, I want to be prepared for it. Looks like they have a Vigilance, which honestly is not that strong. They can heal and kill my Sabine, but that really doesn't do a crazy amount. Let's go Sundari Peacekeeper here just so we can get the value from the Darksaber. And we attack, and then we play a 4 cause, and we hit for 3, it looks like, and then we can keep whatever we want on top. Honestly, I don't want any of these cards, and then we'll just pass. And look at that, we drew it a double for a cause. So, I mean, yes, they did some healing, but they didn't actually get a nice board presence going. Yeah, okay, they got an Avenger. We're gonna kill you. The healing on their cards was nice, but unfortunately for them, the problem with this type of deck is you have to play units, you have to play removal cards, and you have to play the bounty cards in order to get a bunch of value going, and that's like a lot of different things to make the deck function. I love this idea, but it's a lot of things to make it work. I was excited to see it, that I was worried that we were going to get absolutely healed out of the game, but that turn when, you know, we were able to get rid of all their cards in hand and they were forced to top deck was really nice. And we also able to EC out Poe Dameron for boss kill, which, you know, you saw how powerful that was, but that's going to be that game. Let's move on to the next. And here it looks like we got ourselves a battle. The old guard versus the new guard. We got ourselves Han Green here. We're going to keep this hand, and if this is the more ramped version, then Maz Kanata is going to be really good. And if it's not, then it could potentially be pretty weak. So that's kind of the question. Do I want to keep Maz Kanata and keep an assortment of 2-drops? I really want red 3. And because we're going to keep red 3, I think House Cast Soldier is pretty bad because obviously Heroism unit, not a Heroism unit. Only Heroism unit gets raid 1. And then do I want Ketsuonyo or Sabine Wren? I think I actually would rather have both and resource the A-Wing. And then we can go all Mandalorians essentially. Let's see what they decide to start with here. Hopefully it's not like a Sundari Peacekeeper. That's exactly what I was worried about. We're going to go Ketsuonyo here, and that's going to give us kind of a potential to trade against their Sundari Peacekeeper. Of course, Sabine Red would have been really bad in this spot, so that's nice to see. And they're going to be able to potentially play something good on the following turn, like a Poe Dameron. So that's a little bit scary. I'm actually not going to deal damage here because the issue here is if I deal damage and they just straight up trade with Ketsuonyo, then kind of the value is gone, right? They are able to restore it back. So I've essentially just dealt 1 damage to myself, which is pretty weak, I will admit. And yep, they're going to go ahead and kill the Ketsuonyo, which is pretty good. We're going to go Maz Kanata plus Sabine Wren, I think. Oh man, they can go Poe Dameron here is the only issue. So we can go Sundari Peacekeeper, but that doesn't really work against it. Yeah, I think we just go Maz Kanata plus Sabine Wren and hope that that's, you know, good. There could be so many different things that they could play here. I don't think we could play around them all. Poe Dameron's probably the most scary. Or they can't play Poe Dameron. K2SO is what I meant to say. They can't play Poe Dameron this turn because they didn't ramp on turn 1. But they could play. They're gonna ECL. They're trying to ECL out a Super Laser Tech. Yeah, they cannot ECL out Super Laser Tech. So they are playing the more mid-range deck, which Maz Kanata is going to be good against. They keep trying to ECL Super Laser Tech, but they cannot. They have to pay 5 for Super Laser Tech, which means that they can't even play it with Han Solo ability. They keep trying to Energy Conversion Lab Super Laser Tech, but they could not. You guys can see behind me. That's what's over here. There we go. They can't do it. I don't think they understand the aspect penalties, or perhaps something else going on. All right, they're continuing to try to do it, but they cannot because it cost 5. I'll tell them. I'll let them know. Let them know. Just so they know. Curious what they're going to try to do here. Clearly, they wanted to get rid of the Maz Kanata. Maybe they don't have another play because they expected Super Laser Tech to cost 3. I'm not sure, but let's see what our opponent does. Come on. See what you got, opponent. Come on. Hopefully it's not something too good. This is a scary deck to fight against for sure. All right, they're going to pass. We're going to go ahead and play a Sabine Wren. And then next turn we can go red 3. And that's going to be a lot of damage for sure. Hopefully we draw like a Clone Deserter. That would be sweet. A Reckless Gunslinger would also be pretty good. Although I would rather have a Heroism unit. Opponent is in the tank here. They passed. They saw our Sabine Wren. They claimed initiative. So we're going to go and deal 1 damage to each base. And we're going to pass then. Okay, Reckless Gunslinger. That's a pretty good one. We also drew Inspiring Mentor. I think this is a card that could potentially be okay on the following turn when we get Sabine Wren out. We could also play Inspiring Mentor on like one of these units and play a Reckless Gunslinger, but we ended up drawing the Reckless Gunslinger. I think we actually resourced the Sundari Peacekeeper in this spot. Red 3 is obviously going to give us the most amount of damage, so that's what I'm looking for. And playing it's also going to give an experience token to Maz Kanata. Hopefully they just don't have like a Podameron here. That would be really nice for them and be a little bit scary for us. Of course, we could trade our Sabine Wren into Podameron if that does happen. They're going to activate Han and they're going to play a Marauder. Okay. That's pretty exciting to see them play it immediately because now we can just go red 3 and we are in a very, very good spot because we're going to go red 3, Reckless Gunslinger, and that's going to be able to attack for 5. So you can see Maz Kanata, as I said, against the mid-range matchup, it's a lot better. This is literally just a 1 resource, well, about to be a 4/4, which is pretty crazy. So let's see what our opponent's got. Nothing else they can do. They have 0 resources. They can't deploy, Han. They're saying GG, and they conceded. All right, GG. I guess our opponent had enough. And they did not want a Super Laser Attack or anything like that. They could have played Super Laser Attack that turn to get Han out. But the fact that they played Marauder is really, really quite exciting. So, love it. And we are in a great spot. That's, what, the 3rd game? And it was it 4th? No, is that the 4th game? No, it's the 5th game. Wow, these games are so quick. Anyways, on to the next one. All right, we got ourselves a matchup against Ray Red, which could be a little bit scary, but we have a kind of pretty good hand here. Heroic Resolve, I think, can go in the resource pile. Well, maybe we could actually put Darksaber plus K2 in the resource pile because we have a nice turn 1, Clone Deserter, Maz Kanata, nice turn 2 in A-Wing plus Heroic Resolve. So I think that's actually what we want to go for. There is an option of, resourcing like Heroic Resolve plus K2 and trying to go for the Darksaber swing. But I actually like just going for the most value, even though it's kind of sad resourcing all of our 4-drops. I do think that this is a pretty nice spot to be in. And they went, R2. So we're going to go Maz Kanata plus Clone Deserter. And unfortunately for us, they're going to be able to put an experience token on R2 to kind of get some value going. So it's definitely not amazing for us by any means. We still get to attack for 2. This matchup's going to be pretty bad for us because they have the Restore 3. I could have gone with, just sitting back and playing out. Ooh, do I want to keep the 4 cause? I think I have to resource it here. I could have played the A-Wing just to get in for 3 damage, but then Maz Kanata and Clone Deserter are kind of sitting dead in my hand a little bit, which is kind of unfortunate. So I think here it ends up being a little bit more useful to do it this way. Let's go Heroic Resolve on the Clone Deserter so we can go ahead and attack for 3 here. And then we can go ahead and get down the A-Wing and hope that they don't have anything too crazy. Follower of the Way. So if we kill that thing, then they're able to Tarkin Town my Clone Deserter. And then they get to put an experience token on R2. I think it's actually worth it to just attack their base here. I don't actually like hitting the follower of the way, because they still are able to go ahead and get the experience token down. We don't get in damage to their base, and they can't even use their units to actually kill my clone deserter next turn anyway. So I think this is going to be the proper play, because if let's say I kill the follow of the way, they get to go Tarkin Town your clone deserter, draw a card, and then they get to go and put an experience token on R2, which becomes a 3/4, which is not great for us either. So something to kind of keep in mind here. I'm going to keep the R2 and the red 3. And then we'll see if they hit us with the clone deserter or hit the clone deserter. We could potentially sacrifice. Oh, wow. We have to discard 2. Wow. Pillage is crazy here. Let's go ahead and hit them for 3. Wow, that was crazy. Pillage there was just disgusting. They're going to go ahead and hit my clone deserter. I can't use the heroic resolve ability, because if I do, it defeats this and it instantly kills the clone deserter. So we don't want to do that. We are doing a good amount of damage, but it is Ray, which means that they could definitely have something like Vigilance, for example. But Pillage on that specific turn against the double 1-drop play was pretty nasty for us, for sure. We're gonna go in and flip Sabine. We're gonna go ahead and get in for another 3, and we actually are in a decent spot, and that's not amazing, but we do have ECL and we have to do a lot of good draws. So hopefully we draw one of those. Here we drew, well, a couple of different units. We drew Ketsu Onyo and Inspiring Mentor. I'm actually not going to resource anything. If we draw a Wrecker, it'll be bad, but that's the only cards in our deck that's bad. And instead, we get to play, you know, a couple of good plays, which is quite nice. They don't have Tarkin Town. It's going to be kind of difficult to deal with Sabine, because their follower of the way just ends up dying. Okay, they go ahead and play a Concord Dawn Interceptors. We're going to go get down Sabine. We could ECL out a Ketsu Onyo, but that's not actually going to do too much for us. Ketsu Onyo is a great card in this matchup, by the way. If we had this on turn 1, it would have been so good for us. It's one of the cards that kind of just completely hoses this matchup for them. Now we get to go attack, put an experience token on this, and actually kill off their Concord Dawn Interceptors, potentially. So they get to go attack in experience token. And now they can use both their units to try to kill Sabine. And I think we just kill, and then we just play out our own Ketsu Onyo here. And hopefully we draw something like... Oh, actually, hold on. If they have nothing here, we get to go attack for 5, and then they must have some way to heal. Otherwise, they're just dead. So I think I'd rather go with that than playing out the Ketsu Onyo, because we're going to guarantee get in 5 additional damage. And look at that, we drew Podameron. Awesome. That was a fantastic draw. So we're going to go ahead and attack for 5, and hopefully they don't have a Vigilance. If they have a Vigilance, then of course, you know, that is unfortunate for us. But if they don't have a Vigilance, then we are winning the game on the Sabine action. So yeah, kind of not an amazing start, but that is going to be the game. I mean, that was pretty crazy. Ketsu Onyo is one of those cards where, like, in some matchups, it's just going to win you the game. And in some matchups, it's going to be just a 3-2. In this matchup, it is one of those cards that's going to win you the game, even though we didn't play it. Inspiring Mentor actually ended up doing pretty nice work there. We actually ended up getting 1, 2, 3 additional damage off of that. Which is pretty sweet, and we are actually able to kill the Concord Dawn Interceptors where we otherwise would not have been able to. The Pillage on that 4th turn when we had 2 cards in hand was amazing for them, but well, that's gonna be another game 1, and let's go move on to the next one. Got ourselves another matchup against Cad Bane Yellow. We're gonna mulligan this because we don't really have any earlier plays, and well, we got a couple of 1-drops if we wanted to go that route, or because we have more expensive cards, I think I actually just resource the cheap plays. And then just go with the A-Wing into Night Owl Skirmisher into hopefully something else. The idea here is I could have resourced like Night Owl Skirmisher plus like Wrecker and gone R2 plus Clone Deserter. But the thing is, when you go double 1-drops, you're oftentimes not going to reach those higher costs without messing up kind of what you really want to play. And not to mention these earlier plays, these 1-drops, you know, they could potentially get killed by the Cad Bane ability sometimes. And looks like they have a Bazine Natal, which, again, not scared of at all. I am definitely okay with them playing a Bazine Natal. We have Podameron and Wrecker in our hand, so if they want to get rid of one of them, then that's fine. And look at that, we actually end up getting a K2SO, so it actually made our curve better, which is funny. I think Bazine Natal is hopelessly overrated right now, but that's going to be that. Draw ourselves a Darksaber, which is going to be pretty nice. We're going to go Night Owl Skirmisher after attacking for 3 here. And a Bazine Natal's a 1-3. I mean, what are you going to do? It's funny because she actually made our curve better. Looks like they have an ECL target here. So they have Consortium Star Viper. Of course, that is one of the best cards to play against Sabine Wren. But that means that they don't have ECL anymore. So that's pretty good for us. They're going to attack for 1, and we're just going to go ahead and use our action. I don't think there's really any reason not to. I do want to get in an additional damage. Well, I guess perhaps not, because they could attack with Consortium Star Viper here, and that's pretty bad for us. I guess it ended up doing 1 damage to ourselves. Maybe I shouldn't have used the action. It really depends. Like, if they start off with attacking, then maybe they wouldn't have started off with attacking if I hadn't done 1 damage. It kind of depends on the situation, right? Because I could have taken initiative, and I guess that doesn't give them the ability to restore, but then we wouldn't have any damage on their base, and we would have had them be in a position where they could have restored, because we were going to do a Sabine flip this turn, plus Darksaber, plus attack, so they're going to take initiative regardless. Gamorrean Guards. Okay, let's just flip over Sabine. And let's Darksaber it up. Let's Darksaber it up. Okay, they're going to deal 1, and we're going to Darksaber. So them dealing 1 damage to my Sabine didn't really do anything. We're going to go ahead and attack the Gamorrean Guards, hit their base for 1, hit their base for 5, and then pass. And now we could probably get rid of, I mean, we could go red 3 plus Housecast Soldier. So we're going to get rid of one of these K2s. Surprise Strike. Okay, that was a card I was a little bit worried about. Fortunately for us, it's like, you know, it's okay to for them to play that out, because they end up using 2 cards to kind of deal with what we're dealing with. Here, let's go Night Owl Skirmisher, attack for 5, plus red 3, and then pass. Looks like another Darksaber here. Kind of cool, kind of cool. Probably going to resource the Sundari Peacekeeper, because we can't ECL out a Wrecker here, which can just straight up kill Cad Bane, so that's pretty amazing. They probably start off with killing red 3, to be honest. If not, they're going to Surprise Strike again. I don't like that, to be honest, because they can go kill my red 3. I guess it's fine. Lots of Surprise Strikes that they have here, though. Obviously, that's quite good for them. Boba Fett. I'll deal 1 damage to the Cad Bane, or to the red 3. I'll deal 1 damage to each base. And that's what we were waiting for. Let's go ahead and Wrecker ECL. Let's defeat R2. Let's hit them for 5. We'll resolve the ambush attack and kill their Cad Bane. And now we are in a very, very good spot. We're just waiting for them to deploy Cad Bane realistically to get the ECL Wrecker out, and that pretty much flips the game on its head. I could have killed some of their earlier units to prevent some of the Surprise Strikes, but I felt like if they were going with the Surprise Strike, trade Surprise Strike plus your unit for one of our units, I'm definitely okay with that. So I wasn't too worried. Of course, if they go ahead and play something here, we claim initiative and we just hit their base for straight up 7, which is pretty insane, right? We just literally hit their base for 7, and then the Sabine action is able to kill them. So now, even if they kill Housecast Soldier, we kill them with Sabine action. So playing up a Greedo, I think, is not a good idea. Yeah, sure, you kill our house cast soldier. We're going to go ahead and use our action and win. Cool. So, again, Wrecker finishing out the game there. They had a pretty couple nice plays, but Darksaber on Sabine really was able to get through that Sentinel and allowed us to pump the Night Owl Skirmisher, which ended up doing a little bit more damage as well. Bazine Natal, just pretty bad there. I mean, if that was like a 3-3 on turn 1 instead of Bazine Natal, yes, we would have had Poe Dameron in our hand, and maybe we wouldn't have drawn the K2 or something. But the fact that it's just a 1-3, the fact that it's a 1-3 is the biggest downside. Like, it doesn't even matter if you play it, like, if you're playing on turn 1, that is. If you play a little bit later, you can take something important, but you saw there, like, yeah, you don't have to take anything because maybe you mess up our curve and we don't have anything for turn 3, or not that many things for turn 3. But taking Poe Dameron didn't really end up doing anything. Like, we ended up drawing Wrecker, and we could have drawn another Poe Dameron, and we had another ECL target. So, well, just goes to show you why I think Bazine is pretty weak. I mean, Bazine really did not do much there. Again, if this was a 3-3, they could have just killed my Knight of the what is this, Night Owl Skirmisher or whatever, and didn't have to use Surprise Strike. And they could have hit my Sabine for 3, which would have actually done some more work, instead of just hitting it for 1, right? Like, that's the big difference. But anyways, on to the next one. All right, and kind of a sweet one on the opposite side of the table. We got ourselves a Tarkin Yellow, and this is a pretty good hand. We get to go out and resource one of the Darksabers and probably the Night Owl Skirmisher. And then we have a nice Mandalorian curve. We get to go Sabine Wren into Sundari Peacekeeper, which are both Mandalorians, which means Darksaber is going to do some major work if we actually have these guys left over by the time we get to that point. They went TIE Fighter, which is fine. We're going to go ahead and deal 1 damage to the base. If they go space and we go ground, we are extremely happy with that because we will be able to absolutely annihilate them in that sort of race. I am not scared about that at all. We're just going to start off by attacking their base for 3. They're going to play an Incinerator Trooper. We're going to play a Sundari Peacekeeper. And they're going to put an experience token on the Incinerator Trooper. That's fine. We're going to claim initiative, and we're going to kill their Incinerator Trooper with our Peacekeeper. And there's the Poe Dameron, which is pretty nice. Let's go ahead and resource probably the Ketsu Onyo at this point. And yeah, I'm just going to start off with killing their Incinerator Trooper, and we're going to restore some. And then we get to go kill or hit your base for 3 with Sabine Wren, or triple Dark Raid. Let's hope they don't hit a vehicle. Okay, well, they hit a vehicle, and it's going to bounce back to our hand, or their hand at the end of the, or at the end of what's going on here. So we're going to go ahead and deal 1 damage to each base so we can stall out. So now they have to hit our units in order for them to actually get benefit from this. But now we're going to deploy Sabine so it doesn't just straight up die to the ATST. Put a Darksaber on Sabine, get an experience token, do our nonsense, and boom, look at that. We are immensely ahead. We could play even another Sundari Peacekeeper. If we want to, we can ECL out a Poe Dameron. I mean, yeah, no good to me dead. Sure, you got me. Not really that scared about that card either. I mean, we are so far ahead. So far ahead. Triple Dark Raid here, getting an ATST is pretty sweet, but not good enough. Let's just go ahead and play a Poe Dameron. And let's take initiative. Now they can play out Tarkin, give an experience token, but again, like, who cares? Who cares? It doesn't, none of this matters, right? None of this matters at all. Let's see here. We could probably resource a K2. And now we just attack for 4 with the Sundari Peacekeeper. If they want to hit the Sundari Peacekeeper, that's fine. We're going to kill them with Poe Dameron, right? We hit for a lot. Let's discard Sundari Peacekeeper, deal 2 damage, pass, doesn't matter. Sure, I'll defeat the Darksaber, it doesn't matter. I'm trying to kill them. All right, cool. Poe Dameron winning the game. Triple Dark Raid is not something I expected, but it is sweet to see the ATST coming in. The Incinerator Trooper essentially became a 3-resource 3-3, which is, you know, pretty bad, or not like great. So seeing that was really quite exciting. And, well, we were just able to play a Mandalorian, get a Sabine Wren, put a Darksaber on it, and win the game. That's pretty easy to do. And I know it doesn't show the Darksaber on Sabine Wren right now, but I actually just defeated it with Poe Dameron, which I wouldn't have done. It would have been a Darksaber on Sabine Wren right now, and then we would have had an ECL record to follow up all of this. And we even had 4 calls in K2SO, so this game wasn't even close either. Pretty sweet. And I'll play one more because this has just been oppressive, and it's been... I know people are testing out new decks, and I'm kind of playing like the meta, right? Or the old meta, but you can just see how oppressive Sabine Green is with Wrecker and Podameron, but also the Darksaber is a really nice touch with Sabine. All right, so we got ourselves a new game against Ray Green. I was going to say Sabine Green, but Ray Green. We're going to resource a Night Owl Skirmisher and a Heroic Resolve because we can go Sabine Ren, Sundari Peacekeeper, play Echo, discard Echo to give 2 experience to Echo, which means he's a 4 resource 6/6, which is kind of absurd. So that's really, really good. Of course, in this matchup, we would have loved to have a Ketsu Onyo, but that is not going to be the case this time. So we'll just kind of go with the flow and see what's going on. Here, that's a little bit unfortunate. They play a Moisty Boy, a Moisture Farmer. Moisture Farmer, obviously really quite good in this spot for them because they're going to be able to heal a lot, and that's going to be a little bit unfortunate in general. Here, well, we have a 4 cause, and we have double Echo. I think in this spot, we actually want to get rid of one of the Echoes now that we've drawn the Darksaber, because we actually want to keep both Mandalorians alive so that we can actually kill off or kill off the Moisture Farmer with the Sabine Wren Darksaber. Sorry, I was in the thought process. We're going to hit the Sundari Peacekeeper because I was trying to figure out how much damage we were going to do to it. And in this spot, we actually don't want them to attack with the Sundari Peacekeeper at all because, of course, that's like a really bad situation for us. They have Restore on both their units. We need to get rid of them because we're just going to be really behind if that's the case. Now, we get to go ahead and flip over Sabine and get a Darksaber on Sabine, which is going to be really useful. And that's going to allow us to go ahead and actually kill their Moisture Farmer. So now, yeah, they can hit our Sabine or their Sundari Peacekeeper or whatever. We're going to go ahead and kill their Moisture Farmer because that's going to heal a ridiculous amount. And we really can't be having that every single turn. It is a little bit oppressive, but this ended up working out, well, reasonably well for us. We have double 4 cause going on, which is pretty nice. And hopefully they don't have anything too crazy. Akbar was really good there for them, of course. Here we get to go kill your Akbar, put an experience token on this guy. I suppose we could just, you know, well, they can put an experience token here, and that's going to be 2 power, and we can kill it. Yeah, I think we just kill both their units here. It's a little bit awkward, but they are really relying on the Ray action to kind of get them places, and now we're just going to be able to wipe the board here, which ends up being pretty nice. And now we kind of have a really good setup here to really kind of take the game home with kind of a full board control. And then Ray is all about kind of getting units down and buffing them up. So now with full board control, we can just straight up one-shot Ray if that ends up being the case. Let's just go ahead and play a Sabine Wren to start us off. We go red 3 plus Heroic Sacrifice. If they go ahead and deploy Ray, we're going to go ahead and Heroic Sacrifice with K2. So what they're doing there is they were passing to try to wait until I was going to go ahead and attack with my Sabine so that they can play their Ray without getting it one shot. But we did it that way because we knew our K2 was actually going to go ahead and kill their Ray with Heroic Sacrifice. And by doing so, we were able to get the extra experience token and attack with everything plus the red 3. And now we are just immensely ahead to the point where the game is essentially over. Oh man, especially with an ECL'd out Podameron here, where we get to discard one of these things, deal 2 damage here, pass. We don't need to defeat an upgrade here. And then we're going to kill that. They're going to buff with their Kanan. That's fine. Who cares? We have immense amount of power on the board. They get to kill my Sabine, but who cares? We're going to hit for 7 with the Sundari Peacekeeper, and that's going to be game. So yeah, in this matchup, controlling the board, which is not usually what you want to be doing in Sabine Green, is actually really important because of how Ray works. You're all about trying to buff up your units and really, you know, kind of get a bunch of value going. And we don't really want them to restore a bunch. So killing their early Sundari Peacekeeper was really important. One-shotting their Moisture Farmer with Darksaber would not have been able to happen if you just had a K2SO in that spot. and then, you know, growing our board with a Darksaber. If I hadn't drawn Darksaber, I probably would have played that a lot differently, and I would have just tried to, you know, maybe hit their units or rush them down. But with Darksaber, I knew that we were outgrowing their units, right? I mean, look at our units. We have triple experience on Starry Peacekeeper, an experience on Sabine Wren. We had our Sabine Wren kind of do way more damage than normal by, you know, killing both their moisture farmer and what was it? Was it a Akbar? I think we killed. Oh no, we killed the Kanan as well, I believe. And it just kind of, we just ran with the game like easily because of Darksaber. So yeah, Darksaber in this kind of Mandalorian shell does some really nice work, especially with, you know, Sundari Peacekeepers and Sabine Wrens. This kind of curve where you have like turn 1 Mandalorian, turn 2 Mandalorian is actually not uncommon, as you saw with the deck so far. But let's talk a little bit more about it in our final wrap up here. So what did we learn about Darksaber Sabine? Well, Darksaber is actually, well, one of the best cards for Sabine. In fact, I would say it's up there with Poe Dameron and Wrecker in this list. I've tried Darksaber in other lists. I've tried it with like Mandalorian Blue, like, you know, yellow heroism blue, and you cheat on the cost because you can ignore aspect. I've tried it in Gar Saxon green. I've tried it in like Bo Katan full Mandalorians. But this list is by far my favorite, mainly because you're just kind of playing good red Mandalorians and green Mandalorians on curve, and it's really aggressive, right? Like Sabine's an aggressive card, Ketsu's aggressive card, Sundari Peacekeeper's an aggressive card, Night Owl Skirmisher's an aggressive card, Housecast Soldier, not necessarily an aggressive card, but just another Mandalorian. And there's a lot of games where you go turn 1 Sabine, turn 2 Sundari Peacekeeper, or turn 1 Ketsu on you, turn 2 Night Owl Skirmisher. There are also other games where you just play a bunch of 1-drops, and that's also happening, right? You don't need to be on the Mandalorian plan. But if you have one other Mandalorian, Darksaber becomes really powerful because you kind of think of Darksaber as like another for a cause. You put it on your Sabine and you immediately get to get in for damage. And that's the other thing is, unlike, you know, the Mandalorian or Gar Saxon, Sabine comes down on turn 3. And by that point, your opponents usually aren't set up enough to deal with a Sabine Wren with a Darksaber on them. Like if you play, like, say, a Gar Saxon, you put a Darksaber on Gar Saxon, that's at the point where someone could have played like a Jabba's Rancor or, you know, a Devastator or a Crate Dragon. Like that's how late in the game it actually is against some decks. But this is so early in the game that they usually can't deal with a 6-8. And because Sabine comes down so early and has a high toughness, Darksaber usually sticks around for at least, well, that attack and then another attack, which allows you to get some experience going. And again, you don't need to get a lot of experience, like 1, maybe 2 experience with Darksaber, and you're really happy with that. And oftentimes, as I said, just playing Darksaber and getting in for that immediate damage with Sabine Wren and potentially a secondary attack is really impressive, similar to how Fallen Lightsaber works in Kylo Ren. On another note, what about the rest of the deck? Well, there are games where you saw where the 1-drop supremacy is really strong, going like double clone Deserter, Maz Kanata. We didn't really have this option before in previous Sabine versions. We didn't really have a really high value 1-drop unit. We had like R2 was our best one. And then we were playing like Spec Force Soldier to ignore Sentinels, but that usually was pretty weak, especially if you played on like turn 1 R2 Spec Force Soldier. Now with Clone Deserter, that 3 toughness is really, really important. And of course, if you get the curve where you can play a Maz Kanata and get a couple cards in, that's really nice. Reckless Gunslinger can come out of the Smuggle pile. Of course, all the different other upgrades that we're playing, such as Inspiring Mentor, Heroic Resolve, they have their place. Inspiring Mentor in that one game actually did a major amount of work for us. We have a couple good space units earlier on in the game, and then we teeter off. We just go all ground because we're reinforcing our Sabine. And then, of course, you know, our events here in like Heroic Sacrifice for a Cause, definite getting in high bursts of damage. And then to finish out the game, we have that ECL, Poe Dameron, and Wrecker package. And you saw there, I don't think we ECL'd out anything else in the game that we were playing. I think we did use ECL every game, and it was every single time a Poe Dameron or a Wrecker. And that's because those cards are so powerful that when you are ECLing them out, they are going to survive their attack and get some more value for you, or just do a bunch of damage. I can't tell you how many times that I've gone with a Wrecker, kill your leader when he deploys, right? I mean, what do? We did that against Bosk, and we got in for 5 damage or 6 damage to their base. We did it against Cad Bane, and we got in for 4 damage against their base. And I can't remember any other leaders that we were fighting, but Wrecker ECL is disgusting, and that card is really good. I will say one of the kind of least impressive cards that I saw in this list, or I guess the 2 least impressive cards, were actually Echo and R2D2. I think in this list, you don't actually want to be playing another 4-drop. You kind of have a lot of 4-drops because you want to be playing Darksaber, and K2 is just so powerful that I think replacing Echo for like perhaps another Maz Kanata or another House Cast Soldier or something like that. Or heck, you could even go with like a Ewing reinforcement and maybe go a little bit bigger if you reach that point in the game. I think Echo a lot of times was just not very useful, and so that's something to consider. The other thing is, well, R2s were kind of weak. It's just another one drop that we play in case we have that Maz Kanata, Reckless Gunslinger, Clone Deserter type draw where we can go double one drop. Because of course, if you play a Clone Deserter on turn 1 and that's it, that's a weak play. That's a weak play. You don't want to be doing that. But if you go Clone Deserter on turn 1, that's a strong play. So if you're playing one drops, you need a high density of them for them to be really good, or you need to play them in conjunction with 2 drops on like turn 2, and that's where the strength comes in. And so that's why I was playing R2s for just another option there. But you saw in those games, I didn't even play R2 a single time, and so it's not even necessarily, well, necessary to play, and you could probably go with something else. But that's overall going to be Sabine green with Darksaber, guys. This is a very strong list, and definitely recommend giving it a try if you are enjoying your Sabine green lists already. This is definitely a stronger list than before, and I am very happy to have played a bunch of it. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you all for the next one.